Barry, do we know if people are actually paying their school fees during this period?
Well, Shahan, having spoken to the SGB body FedSAS, what they're saying is these early indications are that there is a decline in the payment of school fees. They haven't been able to quantify it at this stage. We understand there's going to be a meeting next week, a broader meeting with members of the organization where they'll be able to establish what the situation is like. But it does appear that there is a trend creeping in, the extent of which we don't know at this stage.
So do we know what the impact is going to be if there's mass non-payment?
Yeah, and this is a very serious concern. The people who are affected by this are those teachers and some school staff who are paid by the SGB. So those would be the first people affected, and it amounts to about between 100 and 150,000 people that could be affected by this, Shahan. And the impact this would have, and this is raised by the National Education Department, saying that there might appear, because your children are at home and we're providing them with schoolwork and their parents are assisting, it might appear that there's very little work being done, but there is a lot happening in the background because there are preparations underway for the catch-up. We've heard a lot from the Minister as well as our various provincial education departments about what needs to be done to ensure there is not an entire collapse or a loss of this academic year. The repercussions of that could be felt for many years to come. So there is a lot of work still being taken place in the background. If teachers, this 100 to 150,000, are not paid and their services or their jobs are on the line and they are forced to be cutbacks, this could hinder the department's ability to be able to adequately catch up the time lost because of this lockdown.
Yeah, so what's the obligation on parents then to actually pay during this time?
Well, in the public sector, there is a legal obligation. There's just no, there's no escape from paying your school fees if you have not got the exemption. So there is a mechanism for parents who are experiencing real financial distress. So they can apply for a fee exemption, but it's not as easy as that. You'd have to show cause. You'd have to provide the evidence and explain why you're unable to pay your school fees. So there has to be valid reason for that. So without that, you are legally obliged to pay your school fees. In the private sector, of course, there's a different type of obligation that is contractual. I have spoken to ISASA and they're saying that despite there not being any school, they've taken legal opinion, there's still a contractual obligation on parents at these private schools to continue paying for the services because, again, like in the public schools, there's a lot happening in the background. Worksheets are being prepared and sent to the parents, and the parents have got this new obligation to ensure that their children maintain up to speed with the work and the curriculum. So there's a legal and a contractual obligation depending on where your child goes to school. But in the event that you do find difficulty, you must go through the proper, appropriate course of action to be able to be exempted.
All right, thanks for the update. Barry Bateman is in Pretoria.